Okay, hello, and welcome to the MSDynamicsWorld.com Spring 2014 webcast series on managing your dynamic future. I'm Jason Zumper, and joining us for today's event is Jeff Schreffler of TriBridge. Jeff is a solution consultant with over 20 years experience in the ERP industry. He works extensively with Microsoft Dynamics GP, and we are really glad to have him here today. So as we get started, I just want to add that we invite you to add your feedback and ask questions today during Jeff's presentation, and also please be on the lookout for a poll we might run later. You can use the Q&A tab, or the Q&A block that you see to the right of the slides to ask your questions today during or after the session. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome Jeff. Jeff, are you there?
I am here. Thanks, Jason. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Looking at our agenda today, we just went through the introduction. Again, my name is Jeff Schreffler. I am with TriBridge. I've been working with Dynamics GP for quite a long time. And what we're going to be focusing on today is looking at some of the reporting tools within Dynamics GP. So that's going to be what we're going to focus on and try and highlight some of the maybe some things you might not know, maybe some new things within Dynamics GP that have been released that affect the reporting area within the product. And then we're going to obviously take you through a demonstration and take you through some of these tools and highlight some areas where we think you might gain some benefit there. So with that being said, let's talk about the reporting tools that we have available to us within Dynamics GP. And we're pretty lucky from an end user perspective to have so many tools available to us from a reporting standpoint. Sometimes people think, well, you know, which one do I use? There's so many of them, and really the answer is the right one, I guess, in terms of your staff and the technical abilities that you have. I mean, we have reporting tools that that novice technical people can use, all the way up to advanced reporting capabilities. So we really run the gamut as far as that goes. So things like SmartList Designer, which is brand new to Dynamics GP 2013, we're going to be talking about. And with the addition of SmartList Designer, Microsoft has now taken SmartList Builder, and they have now sent that back over to E1 Solutions, the original developer of the product. So no longer is SmartList Builder on the Microsoft Dynamics price list. So that is now back in E1's hands, and frankly, I think that's a good thing because they really have done, with the latest release here, they've really done a lot with the product, and we're going to talk about some of those today because a lot of you, I'm sure, probably own SmartList Builder. We're also going to talk about SmartView, which is a product, real quickly we'll talk about it, the product from E1 Solutions that enhances SmartList, and it's really got some neat functionality that I'll take you through just to give you an idea of what's out there. We're going to touch on Excel reports, SQL Reporting Services reports, the GP standard reports, obviously, we have available to us, as well as Management Reporter, which we use, obviously, for our financial statements. So with that being said, we do have a poll question that we wanted to poll the audience just to get an idea of which reporting tool do you use most often. So if you could place your answer there, obviously SmartList, GP standard reports, Excel reports, SQL Reporting Services, or Management Reporter. So if you guys could go ahead and just take a couple of seconds and just respond to that. Just wanted to get a feel for what the audience uses most often from a reporting standpoint as far as reporting within Dynamics GP.
And we'll leave that open for about another 10 seconds. I would also suggest if you had some other answer, feel free to leave it in the chat as well. We can watch that. Say 5 more seconds here. All right, we will close out that poll, and we'll need a few seconds just to compile the results.
Okay, that sounds good. So we'll compile those results, and then we'll jump on in and take a look at some of these different reporting tools within the product.
All right, are you seeing those results?
I see those. Not surprising. SmartList at the top. 43% standard reports with GP at 9%, Excel reports at 2%, and SRS reports at 9% as well. And you have some no answers out there. So thanks everybody for participating in that. I wanted to get an idea and pretty much confirmed what I thought that answer was going to be. So SmartList by far is the overwhelming winner in terms of reporting tools used most often. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the demonstration here and talk about some of these different capabilities. So I am going to share my screen. So we should be seeing my desktop here shortly, which you should be seeing Dynamics DP on the monitor right now. So let's go ahead and get started. So since SmartList was overwhelmingly our most popular choice in terms of tools that we use for reporting, let's talk about some things within SmartList. And I am running Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013, and this is Service Pack 2, okay? So I am going to come on over and load up my SmartList application. And this is really nothing new in terms of SmartList, but Microsoft has done some pretty interesting things here with SmartList in terms of the usability. And one of the biggest complaints that we always heard about SmartList was this slider bar, this divider that divided all of my folders from the actual data that we would see on the right side of the screen. Years before, not years before, previous versions before, this slider bar was way out here towards the middle. So when you would see the results in your SmartList, they would always run off the end of the screen, and you'd have to use your scroll bar to scroll over to see the rest of the results. Well, they went ahead and took care of that for us, and we actually have the ability, if I see there, if I right-click, I can change the width of the slider. So if I wanted to increase the width, I can keep hitting this right mouse button and selecting increase width. So that would give me more ability to view the details of my folders. So you can also decrease the width. What you can also do is when you select an option, you'll notice how the actual folders disappear. That is an auto hide feature that exists in SmartList now. So now we have all of the screen real estate to display the results of our SmartList. And to get my favorites pane back, all I do is click on this little arrow right here. And to change that toggle, you just come up to your SmartList option here and go to your favorites pane. And here you could say whether or not you want to hide or show it, or enable the auto hide, which is what I have right here. So I think that's kind of a neat thing, especially after years of running into things like this where you couldn't see your actual descriptions of all of the different favorites that you have. So now you have the ability to change that, and when you select the actual SmartList, it will go ahead and minimize that favorites pane for us. Okay, so talk about some other things here within SmartList that have changed. And I mentioned back in the PowerPoint, one of the newer features within SmartList is a feature called SmartList Designer. And what happened is, again, Microsoft took the SmartList Builder application and sent that back over to E1. They're not OEM in that product anymore. You can still buy it if you still have it. You can still upgrade that thing from E1 Solutions. But now we have a new tool within SmartList called SmartList Designer. And from someone who's used SmartList Builder for over the years, this is not a bad tool for doing some basic enhanced SmartList, if you will. There's some things that it cannot do when we compare it to SmartList Builder, but in all, it's not too bad. One of the neat things that we have the ability to do is you can now build you can take an existing SmartList. So for example, if I wanted to take my default customer list, and I select new here, so if I create a new SmartList, it will use the existing SmartList as a base for creating a new one. So I could take the existing SmartList and I can link it to additional tables, just like you can in SmartList Builder, and build on top of that. So the ability to create new SmartList off of existing SmartList is something pretty new, even from a SmartList builder standpoint. So that's kind of pretty neat functionality. So let me just come back in here. Let me just go ahead and cancel out of that. And I'm going to come back in here and just start from scratch. I thought I'd take you through actually designing this report here. So I wanted to create a report that would calculate showing me all of my sales transactions, my invoices, all of my line items, and what the price was, what the cost of the items were, and ultimately what the gross profit of that of those transactions. So I'm going to create a new SmartList, and I'm going to label it gross profit, and I want to link into the sales series. But again, you also have access into all of the other series as well: fixed assets, manufacturing, HR, all of your third parties. If you have any loaded here, you have access to those products. So on the left side of the screen, you see our database view. These are all of the tables that we can choose from. So here are all of the GC tables. We also have the ability to bring in SQL views and be able to run and create SmartList off of existing SQL views. So I want to access a couple of tables in my sales series. And the first one that I'm going to select is I want to scroll down here and access my sales transaction history. So I'm just going to, if you can put up with my scrolling here, I'm just going to come down here and expand the sales transaction history option and pick some fields that I want to display. So I'd like to display the SOP type, the SOP number. I need to pull in the document ID. I would like the invoice date. And I'd also like to have the customer name from this header file, if you will. So now I'm going to scroll back up, and now I need to go get my line item information from these invoices, and that'll be in the sales transactions amount history table. So now I want to come in and get my item information that's on those invoices. I need my item number, I need my description, I'd like the unit of measure, the location code, warehouse, what the unit cost was, unit price, and I'll grab a couple additional fields down here. I'll grab my extended price and my extended cost. So now when I select these fields out of this database view, it drops all of these selected fields over here into this grid. So here I can see all of the fields that I have selected for this particular SmartList. Now, just like in SmartList Builder, we now have to take these two tables that I have selected, and we have to basically join those tables together. And you can do that manually, or you can use this auto link feature right over here. So when I click auto link, it takes the most common used fields and joins them out of both tables here. So it's taking my sales order processing number as well as my SOP type. And one of the neat things that's in this designer product now is the ability to, as I'm actually building the SmartList, I have the ability to do what we call execute a query and actually see the results of what this SmartList is going to look like. So when I hit this execute query, now I can see in preview, here is the raw data that I'm going to pull back in to this particular SmartList. And you also get the Transact SQL code here as well. So you could actually take this SQL query right here and take it over into SQL Reporting Services and create a report in SRS based off of this data from our SmartList. So that's kind of neat that we have the ability to do that. I do, however, wish this area was a little bit bigger so we would have some more space to view the data. And that was brought up to Microsoft at Convergence a month or so back, and they thought that that was a great idea, and hopefully we're going to make some changes to expand this window to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so some other things I need to do. I want to create a restriction or a filter because I only want to see invoices. So I'm going to filter off of the sales order processing type, and if it is, I only want to see it if it's an invoice. So if I go back and execute my query now I'm only looking at all of my invoice documents here. But I'm still missing one field. I need a field to be able to calculate my gross profit. So what I need to do is enter a calculated field. So I'm going to come on up here into the selected field, and it's this little button right here with this FX, this function, if you will. When I click on that, now I have the ability to add a calculated field. So when I click on add, I'm going to call this field gross profit, and the type is going to be a currency field. So I'm going to take fields out of my sales transactions history file. So what I want to do is I want to take my extended price and I want to subtract. So I'm going to move to the tab, the functions tab, and I'm going to select arithmetic and throw in a subtraction sign. And now I need to come back to the table field and insert my extended cost field here. Oh, there we go. And when I hit save, the system will check to make sure that the calculation is valid. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now we got this in here. One thing I have noticed, and I'm not sure if this is a bug, I hate to say it, but I think it might be, but you'll notice that that gross profit field is not here in my list of selected fields, nor is it down here at the bottom. So what I found that I can do, a couple of different things. I found that if I come back into the field and just save it again, sometimes that would move it in, but ultimately, if you save the SmartList, so here's the SmartList that we have now. If I go back in to modify it, when I click modify, it'll load the SmartList designer now. So if I come back into my gross profit field, hopefully it'll come back on here and we'll be all set. Now it's here. So there's something not quite right. So that's how I found to work around that. You just select OK, come back in and modify the SmartList, and then your calculated field will be here. So now when I execute my query, if I scroll over to the right, now I've got my gross profit on here, and when I say OK, the system will go ahead and refresh the SmartList right here. So if I scroll over, now I can see my gross profit. If you want to move your columns around, you can't do it in the designer. So if I went back into modify, there's no way I can move these fields up or down in here, which would be nice, but we can't. So what you have to do is you now have to come into your columns option. So if I wanted to move, and I noticed here that I didn't include my quantity field. So what I'm going to do is come back in and modify this report and come back into my tables. Sorry about that, guys. I forgot here to include the quantity. We'll let us open up our table. So let's scroll down to the sales transaction amounts history. Open that up, and I'll scroll down to the bottom and pull in my quantity field. Okay, so now we'll say OK. And now it'll refresh. We'll go back into our columns. And now we'll move our quantity field up. There we go. We'll bump our unit price field up. And that looks good. So now I can say OK. And now we have our gross profit report that I can now come in and I can see what the gross profit was here. Okay. So now I've got my SmartList report here. I'm all set. If you need to, you can take this data and you can dump it right out to Excel like we always have been able to do. So now we've got that data out in Excel. So that is the SmartList Designer, the ability to create a new SmartList without using the SmartList Builder and doing it right from within the SmartList application itself. So pretty neat tool. I found I wanted to get a better understanding of what some of the differences were between SmartList Builder and SmartList Designer. And if I pull up here, I'm going to move over. This is E1 Solutions, the web page, my friend Abby. And they have a nice little comparison here about what SmartList does that SmartList Designer does not do. And keep in mind, this is the first version of SmartList Designer. So of course there's going to be lots of things that SmartList Builder does that Designer does not, but it does a decent job of just doing some basic abilities of creating some new SmartList. It doesn't have as many advanced capabilities. The calculations are pretty rudimentary in SmartList Designer. SmartList Builder, you have much more capabilities, and we discovered this a few days ago right here where we were working with the client. We were trying to take the data out to Excel, but all of the data as far as numbers, it was moving the data out as text fields and not as number fields. And we found that that's a limitation where once you move the data to Excel, you then have to convert that to a currency or number field. So that's out on E1 Solutions site. So if you want a more detailed comparison about what you can do here, I thought I'd show that to you guys. Okay, so let's see here. What else do we want to take a look at? So that's the SmartList Designer. Now let's go take a look, and I'm going to move into a different environment where I've got my SmartList Builder application running. Let's take a look at some of the changes that E1 has made to SmartList Builder here. So what I'm going to do is pull up SmartList. Okay, so now that I've got my SmartList up, you'll notice here if I just pull up a gross profit report here. One of the things that's new within SmartList Builder is before, if you wanted to make a change to this existing SmartList, you'd have to leave the SmartList, you'd have to navigate back out to SmartList Builder, then you'd have to make your change, you'd have to save it in SmartList Builder, and then come and rerun your SmartList to see your changes. Well, thankfully they changed that. So you'll notice here I have that modified button, but since SmartList Builder is installed, SmartList Designer is disabled. So now it takes me right back into SmartList Builders. So this is something that we're all familiar with here at this point. So hopefully we are, most of us might be. So here is SmartList Builder. Some of the new things that they have added here is up on the options screen. So again, as I'm building my report, I want to see what it looks like. Before you couldn't do that. You'd have to save it and come back out and open your SmartList again. Well, now I can just come up to this options button and select preview data. And it'll open a nice big preview window here where I can preview what the data is going to look like. Okay, so as I'm in SmartList Builder building my report, I can now see what the results are going to be instead of having to save it and go back out and access SmartList in order to see what those changes are. So I think that's pretty neat that we have the ability to do that. Okay, it as well, you have the ability to display your SQL data. There's a little problem with that, something not working correctly. And that's what happens when you show something you didn't try out before. Okay, we'll move that along to the side here. But that was one of the big changes. And also when you save, ooh, it doesn't like this at all. Does not like that. Well, that's not good. Go back into my report and I pull up modify. It's going to go ahead and load up SmartList Builder. And one of the neat things that I like about this is whenever you make your changes here and you save it, it'll go ahead and refresh the SmartList right behind you. So you don't have to go back out and then try to pull up the SmartList again. So I think that's a nice time saver in terms of working within SmartList, being able to pull up your modify window, pull the builder back up, make your changes, hit save, and then the system will go ahead and refresh the SmartList behind you. So I think that's pretty neat. That's pretty helpful. So if you guys use SmartList Builder out there, it has been updated and there's some new capabilities like we just showed you with the preview and being able to modify the existing SmartList, which is nice. So those are some of the cool things within SmartList Builder that I wanted to show you. Also, one more thing I wanted to talk about, the new version of SmartList Builder. Sometimes you might be creating a report and you're trying to figure out what table you need to get to access a particular field. So if I navigate over, I want to pull up my sales transaction entry window. In every single window in Dynamics DB, SmartList Builder has added an option called Table Finder here under the Tools menu in every single window. So when you access Table Finder, what it will do is basically it's going to pull up the existing window that we're looking at, which is the sales transaction entry window. But when I open the field option, I'm looking for the field that I want to report on here. So when I do that, so when I pull up a particular field, the system will go ahead and basically tell you all of the tables that you will need to get to this data. Okay, so here are the tables: sales transaction history, work, amounts worked, and here are all the fields. Okay, so that is pretty helpful. And then right from here, you can actually create a smart list or an Excel report or a navigation list right from this window. So that table finder is pretty helpful, because I know I've had some times where I'm trying to figure out what tables the data comes from, or if I just go to the window and pull up the field, this table finder helps me with that. So that's a nice tool that that E1 has added into the SmartList Builder program. Okay, and keeping on with the SmartList theme, I mentioned that I wanted to briefly talk about the SmartView application from E1. SmartList is pretty awesome, but one of the areas where we have seen customers having some difficulty with it are customers that have very large data sets. So for example, if I pull up an account transaction list, you'll see at the bottom left-hand corner how SmartList is loading up all of these account transactions. And I have it set to stop at the first 1,000 records. So right now, it's just about finishing loading all 1,000 of those records. So if you've got large data sets, it can sometimes be difficult to work with SmartList because of the speed and performance. So what E1 did is they built SmartView, that basically is a viewer that takes all of your existing SmartList and moves it into a very user-friendly interface. So here are all of my existing SmartList. So if I came down, well, first let me go just from a comparison sake. Let me pull up that same account transactions window, and you'll notice it just loaded all 1,000 transactions in 0.6 of a second. So that is much, much faster than what we have from a performance standpoint in SmartList. So if you've got large data sets, this is a really nice tool to work with in terms of pulling back your data quickly. And the interface is a little bit different as well, obviously. On the right side of the window, we've got all of our available fields here for me. So if I wanted to add a column to this SmartList, I just click it, and immediately the system will refresh all 1,000 transactions and give you the new field. If I did that in SmartList, it'd still be refiltering right now. Same thing with your description. Any of these fields you can add right into your SmartList. And what I really like about this here is drag and drop. So if I wanted to move this description over here, I can move these fields around. Okay, so that makes it really nice in terms of moving the data around. And you still have the ability, you still got your go-to buttons to be able to drill back. You've got your Excel capability. And another thing I really like about it is it does subtotaling. So if I'm working in a report, let me go back to that sales report, that gross profit report that I created. So now I wanted to do some analysis on this window. What I have the ability to do, and if I scroll all the way over to the right, you can see my subtotals for all of my different fields, okay? So one thing I can do is now I want to come in here and see, I've got all these different customers and items. Show me all of the invoices by customer. If I take the column heading and drag it up into this grouping section, I've now grouped all of this data by customer. So here are all of the invoices for Aaron Fitz Electrical. If I collapse that customer, here are the remaining customers, and here are all of those invoice transactions by customer and subtotals for each one. So this makes coming in and analyzing this data that much easier, because a lot of cases I was taking this data, we take this data to Excel just to do subtotals like this. Well, now I don't have to take that data to Excel to do it. I can do it right here from within SmartView. And if I want to expand even further on this, well, now I want to break down, I've got it sorted by customer, but now I want to break it down by item. So now I can come up here and join the item table here. So now I can see by customer how many times they bought a particular item and what types of money and margins did we bake on it. Okay? And again, you've got your subtotals here at the bottom. And then if I want to get rid of those, all I have to do is just clear all of those, and I can move my field right back in to my columns just like this. We've got filtering capabilities here. So if I wanted to turn on a filter, I could. So if I only wanted to display a certain, a couple of different item numbers, I can turn that on right there and just filter just like that. Things that we really can't do that easily within SmartList. Okay. I can clear all of those and have them come back. If I want to do a more advanced filter editor, I could come in here and search by all the different types of my fields that I have in my column. But you've got a ton more different types of variables that you can put in for your logic here. You have a lot more here in SmartList Builder. So that's pretty neat as well. One thing that I found was very, very helpful is there is a find feature in here. So if you're looking for a particular transaction, so maybe I'm looking for, there's an invoice in here that I know it's 1019. I can just hit that and hit tab, and immediately it will find that for me. And just like that, I can open up the transaction, and if I had included the go-to in this report, which I didn't, I could drill back into that transaction. So when I clear that search window, it's going to clear all that out, and now I've got my SmartList back here. And you can take this data. So if I've got it grouped, let me just group it like I had it before. I can still take this out to Excel. I can create a PDF for it. So now I can open this up. Now I've exported it, and this is what it looks like when I export the data out to Excel. So if you wanted to do that, you still have the ability to do that, and it keeps all the formatting with it as well. Okay, so that is the SmartView product. Okay, and again, if I want to create the favorite, I could just add the favorite and select which users are allowed to see it, which companies are allowed to see it. So this is a really neat tool, and the nice thing is it's very inexpensive for what you get for it. So I highly recommend you take a look at it, because it just makes, if you're a big fan of SmartList, then this thing just, it really performs extremely well. And from a speed standpoint, the user interface, the way that we can analyze and group the data, very, very nice. Big fan if you couldn't tell already. All right, so we've talked about SmartList, we've talked about the SmartList Designer, SmartList Builder, we've talked about the SmartView application. Now, next what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about Excel reports. And based on our survey, there's only a very small percentage of you that utilize Excel reports, and maybe we can change that today. Our Excel reports within Dynamics GP, they are located within a navigation list in each of your series. So if I went to the purchasing series, here are all of my different navigation lists, and you'll see here we have an option here called Excel reports. So here are all of the Excel reports and data connections that we have available to us that come out of the box with Dynamics GP. Okay, so I could come in here and take, I want this purchase line items that's going to show me all of my PO line items, and I'm going to enable this report, and you'll see that it'll take the data out of GP, and now it'll drop it right into my Excel report. And the great thing about the Excel report is that I can now take this data, take this report, I can save it, I can put it to my desktop, I can move it out to a file share, and when I open it the next time, the Excel sheet will automatically connect to GP and pull down all of the current transactions. So it will refresh itself with all the current data. If you are a fan of doing pivot tables, pivot charts, things like that, this is a really neat tool for doing that, because you can pull all of your raw data into your Excel report, and then you can create a new sheet and insert a pivot table and use that data as a source for the pivot table, and then you can do all sorts of fun things with pivot tables, with slicing and dicing data. And then every time you open this sheet, GP will refresh the Excel spreadsheet with the current data, and your pivot table will update. So this is pretty neat functionality in terms of what we can do here. So one of the things, just like your SmartList, we found that people just can't use the standard Excel report. There's always a certain field that we need to have that we don't have available in the standard Excel report. So if you own SmartList Builder, then you own Excel Report Builder. So if I come up to my Tools menu in GP and go to SmartList Builder, I can now access Excel Report Builder. And it functions exactly, pretty much almost exactly like SmartList Builder, where I can come in and I can create a new Excel-based report and join multiple GP tables and be able to view this data, okay? So what I did is I just created this open PO items report and selected some fields from the purchase order line table. And then what I did is I created the Excel report, what you're seeing right here. Now, one of the things that you can do to make this report more interactive with Dynamics GP is you can create drill downs on your Excel report. So if I'm looking at this report and I'm looking at all these items that are out there on PO, if I'm an inventory or PO guy, maybe I want to come in and analyze what we've got in inventory. I know I've got these coming in on PO, I've got 15 coming in, but if I click on the item number right here, I can go ahead and launch the item inquiry window for that specific item. Okay, here it is right here. And now you can see, well, I've got 46 on hand, I've got 8 that have been submitted, so we've got 38 that are available, okay? And then if I need to, I can break that down by site if I wanted to. So now I wanted to break it down for a particular location. Now I can see that data as well. So I can take this Excel-based report and make it very interactive. And the way that you do that is back here in the Excel Report Builder is, let me just pull that right back up here, navigate to SmartList Builder. We have a feature here called Drill Down Builder. The Drill Down Builder enables you to build a drill down that will enable you to click on a field and be able to drill down into Dynamics GP. So what I did here is I just built a drill down and called it Item Inquiry. And I've told the system that I want to launch a GP form here. And what form do I want to launch? Well, here I told it that I wanted it from inventory, and the form was my Item Inquiry field. So what I did is I added an action type. And what this action type is I basically said, when I click on this field, I want you to basically use that item number as the field value and then run the script to activate the window. Okay, that's all I'm telling it to do here. So that's how you build the drill down. Now what you do, now that you've got the drill down built, you go back into Excel Report Builder. Let me pull up my open PO items here. And this button right here is called Drill Down. Now when you click on Add, you'll see all of the available columns that you have. So what I did is let me just open this up here. I took the item number because what I want to do is in my spreadsheet, when I click on the item number, I want it to invoke this drill down logic. So the drill down that I chose was Item Inquiry, and there are some standard drill downs that are built automatically out of the box. So here's my Item Inquiry. So what happens is when I go ahead and publish this Excel report, then it gives me the ability, it adds this hyperlink, if you will, this logic right here, that will then drill back into Dynamics GP, and I can go ahead and load up that window. So things like looking at your items here, you also, if you were looking at invoices and you wanted to drill down into the item as well as the invoice, you'd be able to click on a PO number here. If I had set it up that way, you could drill back into the PO. So it makes working with these Excel reports much better because I can interact with the data in Dynamics GP. And obviously, when I launch this, I have to have a Dynamics GP user license in order to launch that window. Okay, so that is the Excel report. Let's talk about SQL Reporting Services. And Microsoft has slowly been incorporating SRS reports into the system for several releases now. And eventually, I think that's going to replace a lot of the standard GP reports if it hasn't already. So you might be wondering, where are these SRS reports? Well, they're located in the navigation list of each of the series. So if I wanted to access the sales series here, I'll come down and I'll see all of my reporting services reports. These are SQL Reporting Services reports. So now I've got all of my reports that are available to me. So we've got 56 out-of-the-box reports that have already been configured in SQL Report Writer, where I can come in and look at all these different types of reports. And key performance indicators in there as well. So let's take a look here. I want to look at my soft document analysis. So I'm just going to type that in, and to view it, I just select it, come up here and click View. And now the system takes me through my selection criteria, where I can come down here and I can change my item numbers here. I could change which customers, so maybe I want to include all of my customers in this report. And my demo data is in the year 2017, so let's not include pick components. And then to view the report, I can just click on View, and we get a nice looking report here that has absolutely no data in it, which is not good. So let's do this. Let's incorporate some more items. And that should work for us. There we go. So now I've got a nice report here looking at sales analysis by customer, all of the items that they purchased, sales cost, what the profit was as a percentage of sales. Some nice information. And what I really like about the SQL Reporting Services report is that you do not have to be a Dynamics GP user in order to launch and view these reports. That's the nice thing. You do not have to pay extra money to get user licenses for these types of reports, which is awesome. So anybody can view these types of reports, and you can also build drill down into these reports as well. These also export very nicely if you want to send it out into an Excel format, PDF file, works very well. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot more of these SQL Reporting Services reports. In fact, in GP 2013, one of the features that they added, and this is more of just migration of the SRS reports into GP, but you now have the ability under this print icon. When you would click this print icon before, it would just print you a customer maintenance report. But now, if I click on the drop-down window, I can assign SQL Reporting Services reports to print right from this window. So I can open this Assign Reports option, and here are all of my SRS reports available for me, and I can go ahead and include those in here, and I can include the order and how I want these to run. Okay, so now I can just go ahead and I can throw in a customer number here, and now I can click on Print, and let me just run that to the screen. Well, that's my standard report. I don't want that. But I can run that document analysis report that I just ran. So right from the customer file, it'll go ahead and run that report for you. So again, that's just more examples of Microsoft moving SRS reports more deeply into the product. And where we also see SRS reports a lot is in this Business Analyzer section. In GP 2013, Microsoft changed the name of this. It used to be called Metrics, and now it's called Business Analyzer. This is where we have all of our KPIs, and this is kind of new as well, where I can maximize these particular windows, and I can cycle through all of the different types of reports here that we have. And if I click on this little pencil, this allows me to change. Here are all of the available reports that I have available to me to include in my dashboard, if you will. So I can include these reports, and I also have the ability here, if I wanted to edit this report, I have the ability to do that. So I could take a particular report and come up here and say, well, let's edit the report, and what it'll do is it will run, you may have to download it, but it's basically the SQL Report Builder. I think this is version 3.0. So it'll load that application and take this report right into it, and then I can make changes to the report. So if I need to make a date change on the report or make cosmetic changes to the report, it gives me the ability to do that. So that's what we have the ability to do here in the SQL Report Builder. and that's what we're seeing right here. Okay, so I'm a real big fan of these types of reports, and I like how we can display them now within GP 2013. You also have the ability to, if I click on Show All and I hit OK, the system will go ahead and display all of my charts as separate components on my dashboard here. And then also in GP 2013, I can drag and drop these different sections to how I like it. So now I've got all these reports right here in my dashboard. But we also have another way in terms of how you can view these reports. And Microsoft ships an external application called Business Analyzer, and it runs outside of GP. Therefore, you do not need a GP full access license to use it. So now I can come in here and I can view these reports from this desktop application called Business Analyzer. And what I have the ability to do is here I've got all the reports that I've selected, so I could come right in here and I can switch, and this can even run as a slideshow that I can have up in this, and you can tell the report how often you want them to refresh. So if I come up here and right click, I can change the window mode in terms of how you view the data. I can filter the reports and tell it, maybe if you've got multiple companies, let's run it for all of the companies, or maybe just tell it what series you want to run the data from. Or you can come in and come into this options button here, and you can come into this feature called report selection. So now I can come in here and select what reports I want to include. So I've got a lot of flexibility here to come in here and tell it what I want to see from a reporting standpoint, as well as all of the charts and KPIs. You could really tailor this thing to include the reports that mean something to you. And you also have the ability here, let me just navigate back to the first one here, this patch position. If you wanted to interact with this report, you can. So what you'll have to do first is you'll have to come up here and view report. This button right here will actually launch the SQL Reporting Services report. And now that I've got it within the report viewer, I can interact with the data. So here I see my cash change, it increased 751 grand. Well, I want to learn more about why that happened. When I click on that, it'll actually take me into another graph where I can see that point in the data here. So if I drill down even further, it's taking me to a detail report for all of my cash accounts. So I can see the debit and credit amounts and what that period balance was. So if I wanted to, I could come up here, and this is a drill down within SQL Reporting Services. I can now drill down on that particular account, and now I'm seeing all of the entries that were made, all the debit amounts, all of our deposits. You can see all of the credit transactions here. So here I've got a credit to cash for 80,000. What happened here? If you have access to GP at this point, I can click on this journal entry, and what it'll do is it will now take me back into GP, and here is that journal entry right here. It looks like it was a payables check that was written for $80,000. Okay, well, what did it pay? Well, now I can go right into the payables management Zoom, go to my apply button, and now I'm seeing all of the documents that it paid off. So starting from that KPI, I was able to drill all the way back through that detail. And again, that's done with the Business Analyzer. And this is included with Dynamics GP. Okay, so you all have it. So that is the Business Analyzer. Pretty neat little tool. The last thing that I wanted to talk briefly about was Management Reporter. Just a couple of things here. Management Reporter has obviously replaced FRX, and Microsoft has done some good work with it in terms of bringing it up to speed and on par with FRX, and in a lot of cases exceeding it. But one of the areas that I find a lot of folks that use the product they don't use very often are what we call reporting groups and reporting schedules. Management Reporter has the ability to publish reports out to individuals or groups of individuals. So within the actual report group itself, you can add which reports you want to send out to this group of individuals. So maybe I wanted to send out certain reports at month end to our executives. Well, I would add these particular reports to my group, and once I have them in the group, I can now build a report schedule So I can build a report schedule for all of the executives. So all of those reports in that executive group, I can then go in and tell the system to run these every week or every day, and then have it recur every Sunday, and then run these at this particular time, and it'll automatically run the reports and publish them out to the location where then those individuals could use the Management Reporter Viewer application to go in and view those reports. So that's pretty neat functionality in the system that we can do that. Another new thing recently that was added within Management Reporter is the ability to view reports within a web browser. Normally, we view them within our Management Reporter Viewer application that you're seeing me load up on the screen right now. So I could take a particular income statement or whatever have you and load that up and view it within my viewer application, just like this. So now what we have the ability to do is I can come in here and let me just pick a particular, let me run my P&L for non-healthcare. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this and generate this. And what will happen is when we generate this report, we're going to launch our web-based viewer application, and now I can actually view this report within a web browser. And one more thing I should point out on that Business Analyzer app while this is loading is Microsoft has an app for that for the Windows environment. So if you're using Windows 8 on a desktop or even on the phone mobile platform, that Business Analyzer will work on that device and will connect to your reporting services report. So that's kind of neat too. So now you can see I'm actually in a browser with the ability to look at my P&L. I still have the ability to drill down. So I can drill down into the multiple layers of this particular report, and I can just go back up to where I was before. And you also have access to your reporting tree. So if I wanted to see a particular department within the tree, now I can see that. I also have the ability to add comments. I can go to different sections of the report here. I can download it to an Excel format if you wanted to. So this is kind of the neat piece of functionality here with Dynamics GP in terms of using this web-based report viewer. So we're coming up here. We're almost out of time, and I've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. So I am going to stop sharing and see if anybody has any questions at this point.
All right, thanks so much, Jeff. And yeah, now we're back in the main screen here. Folks want to use the Q&A block or the chat block to ask their questions, share their experiences with reporting in Dynamics GP. We would certainly welcome it now. Jeff, we had more of a comment that came in a little while ago that you may not have seen after the poll question, and one of the members of the audience said that they're using actually a combination of SmartList, Management Reporter, and SSRS, depending on either the department or the need.
Sure.
Is that something that you see commonly?
Yeah, that's very common. I mean, obviously, Management Reporter is used for financial statements, but yeah, it's real common, depending on the need, to use SmartList as well as SQL Reporting Services. SRS can do some really advanced type of reporting, and typically, if you've got staff that can write reports in SRS, there's a lot that you can do. Very, very powerful tool.
Question that came in here from Ryan, who asked, can SmartView deploy as a standalone product, or is the suite needed?
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't bring that up, but yes, the SmartView application can be run outside of Dynamics GP. So they have a separate viewer that can run outside of GP, so you don't have to have a full use access license for GP in order for folks to run and look at that SmartView, which is very, very helpful. So you can query all types of GP data and not even be logged into the system, which is awesome.
All right. A question here from David who asks is, regarding Management Reporter, is there a setting to clear out old versions of the reports?
No, there's not a setting. As far as I know, you would have to go into each one and delete them out.
Okay. And someone's asking, is SmartView licensed directly from E1?
SmartView is directly licensed from E1, correct.
All right, great.
So you can, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can work with your partner, you can contact your partner, and your partner can go directly to E1 and take care of that for you. And it's a very simple install to do. It's not complicated at all, and it works right out of the box.
All right, excellent. Why don't we make a last call for questions here? We're coming up on the top of the hour, and it looks like we do have one more here. So Patty asks, how can we give access to SRS reports for non-licensed GP users?
There's several ways in terms of you can have those reports published to different locations. They could be a file location. It could be a SharePoint website. So yeah, there's lots of different ways. I mean, we just basically render them within Dynamics GP, but you can store them in different file locations and different folders and access them that way.
All right, very good. Well, Jeff, thanks again. I put your contact information up there. I'm sure you'd be happy to take an extra question if it came in after.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be glad to help you out in any way I can.
All right, we recorded today's session. We'll be making it available on demand pretty soon with an email update when that's ready. Jeff, I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone, for joining me.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. I second that. And please be on the lookout for the survey that'll pop up right when you complete this. We do love to hear the feedback, and if speakers appreciate it, too. It won't really take 15 or 30 seconds to complete. So thanks again. Have a great day.